welcome back to my channel. Like my flowers, it's nice, right? So I'm just going to go straight into why I'm doing this video today, and it's going to be about 7 things they don't tell you, or things that you do not know or may not know regarding a C-section. So if you guys watched my previous video, you would have seen and heard that I had to have an emergency C-section because of whatever reasons I'm still not clear about. So today I just want to give an insight into what it is that I did not expect to be experiencing after I had an emergency C-section. So let's jump right into it. So first off, before you even get into the whole C-section thing, part one or number one is that they're gonna be shaving your private area. I had no clue that this was a thing, and I had no clue that this was going to be happening. It happened to me. So as I mentioned before, there was completely, the communication with the nurses and the midwife and myself was very, very poor. And so when I saw her shaving, my coochie, I had no clue what was happening. I asked her, what was happening, and she's like, I'm shaving you, just preparing you for anything that should happen. So I'm like, okay, then cool. I didn't know you'd have to shave to prepare for anything that could happen. And for me, it was a little bit traumatizing because, first of all, if you know waxing, not talking about the pain here, it's just a matter of, I don't know, I just felt there's this certain level of vulnerability that comes with waxing, and I think I felt the same way when she was shaving me, right? And I wasn't really clear on the reason why. So right before they cut you, they have to shave you, and that's to clear the path, for the needle or for the little small knife thing. I don't know what they call it. So they want to just clear the area, clear the path, so that when they are cutting, they don't have anything inhibiting that area. So that's number one. Number two, after I had my C-section, I could not poo, or I was so afraid to poo, like I couldn't use the toilet. And for me, that was okay. Everybody loves a release, right? And I don't like feeling like I'm just cooped up and I have so much tension in my body. And it was so hard for me. I was very, very anxious going to the bathroom. I don't know, and especially because I was not aware of any of these things before, because me and my OBGYN did not discuss anything relating to C-section. It was very, very difficult and very anxious filled for me. So my first time going to the bathroom, I had to just kind of prep myself and relax myself and just kind of let it come out. You know what I mean? Sometimes, obviously before, you would have a little pushing happening with the poo, but like now I just kind of had to relax myself and just let it come as naturally as possible, because imagine 2 days after having a C-section, after going through major abdominal surgery, you have to just take your time. I had to be on a lot of water, a lot of porridge. I didn't have any suppositories or stool softener because I don't think I needed any of that, and my doctor didn't prescribe any for me. But yeah, it was so difficult for me. The first time was very, very rough. I just had to relax, and I did push a little bit, but when I did, I could have feel the pressure in my abdomen, because there, so should be as relaxed as possible. So yeah, I couldn't poo. Some persons may need suppositories or stool softeners, and you have to drink a lot of water so you don't become constipated. It's very important. So you drink a lot of porridge, soup, nothing too heavy, like, I'm not a dairy drinker. I don't do dairy overall, rather. So I don't know, maybe lay off the dairy for a little bit and the ice cream and all of that, so you can just poo in peace. It's very, very important. Third thing, which is very, very, very important, is the possibility of having an infection, a lot of blood loss and blood clots and other complication. Now, when I did my C-section, right, I noticed immediately that my breath, like I had shorter breath, like my breath was, I was breathing haphazardly. And for me, somebody who is in fitness and who knows how to, you know, breathe properly, hold my breath, or just breathe in a way that relaxes my body and not to be thinking about anything or whatever, I found that my breathing was rapid, like a little bit fast, and I don't know how to say it in English, but I had shorter breath. For the English people, let me know in the comments, okay? So yeah, and when I realized that, I had told my nurse who delivered my baby, and the first thing she said to me was that I needed to do an ultrasound. Knowing me, as I mentioned in my previous video, the ultrasound machine that they had, it did not show anything at all. So me must go spend more than 30 grand. 30 grand, sorry, was about like $10,000-$15,000, right, to do a whole, well, she wanted me to do an ultrasound, and I don't know, maybe an x-ray, I think is what she mentioned, to see if there's something happening with my lungs. She pointed to the fact that it may have been a blood clot, but I was not sticking around to find out, because I did not trust that hospital one bit, and I really did feel like she wanted me to do all of those things because, you know, they wanted more money. Like that hospital, I believe, put me in a position because they saw me as a business opportunity, as they do with a lot of women when, you know, who are in birth and labor. They see us as a business opportunity, and I decided that I'm not going to be doing any of that. So yeah, I had shorter breath, and I was really hoping, which thankfully I did not have any infection or any blood clots, or I'm not sure about my blood loss, but I did lose blood though, because you know, it's I guess it's sort of unavoidable if you're doing surgery, but thankfully I did not lose a lot, because which put me back into being anemic, because generally I'm an anemic person. So yeah, you have to be careful when it comes to that, and I think that's one of the reasons why they said that right after surgery you should try to get up and walk and try to move around gently, but move around as best as possible. No, so the people them say after I had my surgery, nobody gave me that instruction. I stayed in my bed for like the whole day after my surgery. Like, so I had the surgery today, and like tomorrow and the following morning I stayed in bed the whole time, because I thought I wasn't supposed to be moving. So the morning, the day, 2 days later, or a day and a morning later, she came to me, the nurse, and said that you know, come out of the bed and whatever, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that I was supposed to be coming out of the bed and moving around, walking. Like, hello, I mean, instructions here. I'm not a professional, you are the professional, right? So yeah, you're supposed to be moving about, just to trying to, that's the best way to prevent any type of blood clot or infection or whatever. And that's why as well, after you have the C-section, they give you antibiotics, because they, you know, they don't want you to be catching any infection, because what would happen is sometimes, like down in where the area where them cut you, sometimes the wound has to be open up and have to go in and, I don't know, just do some little doctor things down there, and that I think is one of the most difficult situations, because you've already gone through surgery and then now you have to open up the wound to, I guess, rectify whatever it is that you're feeling. Some people know they have an infection whenever they get a high fever, which I had as well after. Me say, I did a fret out daylight, because I thought I had an infection because I had a really high fever like a week later. And because, come on, I'm a very active person, right? So I wasn't really listening to the take it easy type of thing, and because I wasn't listening to that, I felt as though I had an infection, because I got a really high fever, I had a cold, and those two things are symptoms of having an infection after the C-section. But thankfully I just needed some rest, and after I got some sleep, I was really good the later in the day. So it really lasts for like 12 hours or so. But yeah, so if you realize that the area that they cut is puffy, is feeling like unusual type of pain, or you may have an infection. If you have a high fever, if you have a cold, if you have a cough, right, those are the different signs of an infection once you have a C-section. I wasn't trying to rhyme. Okay, so the next thing is that after having a C-section, you cannot, well, I I realized that I could not be lifting anything heavy, and I could not drive. Hello, I am a weight lifter. Like, I lift heavy weights. Do you know how difficult that was for me to just be completely out of my element? Like, that one thing where I found peace, where I got that's just like my area of relief, my peace to release any type of tension, is lifting, and is just, you know, being in the gym. And that was very hard for me to do, because obviously if you exert too much pressure in your abdominal area, you can experience a tear, or you can just like burst out, or you can have an hernia, which I have one right now. An umbilical hernia is what they call it. So yeah, you cannot be lifting anything heavy, and you also cannot be driving. I had no clue that that was a thing as well, too, because I love to drive myself. I love to move around. If I want to go to the supermarket or anything like that, like, I don't want to be having to depend on anybody, because I'm a very independent woman. I do things myself most of the time. So yeah, and the reason for not for encouraging you not to drive is because, you know, when you press down on the brakes, press down on the gas, you can feel it all the way in your stomach. You know, just moving, if you try it now, you realize that you can, you know, feel a little pressure like in that area. So you cannot be driving. For me, I think I wasn't able to drive until after maybe like 8 weeks or so, like 2 months of driving. I forgot to drive like completely. So I think after 2 months or so, I could drive. That's that. The fourth one is that you cannot be doing any type of heavy coughing, sneezing, or laughing, or crying. The crying part I know about, because I cry. Hello. Because as you would have known, I went through some serious postpartum depression because you know, I found the whole thing traumatic. You know, when I was crying, the trick is, let me tell you the trick, okay? Because of some cow ball we put on, you know, I tell you the trick is, right? So you're gonna get a blanket or a towel. Get a towel, and you're gonna fold it up. Let me show you. Give me a moment. So you're gonna get a blanket, a towel like this, right? And you're gonna fold it up. You're gonna fold up the blanket. The towel, I keep on saying blanket. You're gonna fold it like this. Fold it like this. Thick like this, right? And you're gonna put it right here. You're gonna put it right here. And like right here, I kind of press it down. Oh, you can't see the hernia because I have a bulging navel right here. So you're gonna hold it right here, and you're gonna kind of press it in, and then you're gonna laugh. So it's almost as if you're holding it to protect the wound, and you, in a way, it's kind of tightening your abdomen. And you're gonna just still exert a cough, laugh, sneeze, or laugh. It worked wonders for me, because I remember when I was crying, I did this, and I folded myself over, but obviously not fold myself at my tummy, but just like my legs down, fold over, similar to when you're doing a deadlift. You just bend over your top half of your body, and that's what I did, like on my bed. So that's how I dealt with the cow balling. So that's a trick. It really works. You should try it. And so, you know, when you're, again, like, if you're going to be laughing, coughing, or doing anything like that, it can seriously rupture the stitches that you have down there after the C-section. So you definitely have to be careful, because that's baby girl. You definitely want to be careful because you don't want to be risking anything. Jumping off of what I mentioned earlier, number 6 is that there's a possibility of a hernia. Now, there are different types of, is it hernia or hernia? I don't know. There are different types of hernias when it comes to C-section that you can experience. But I think the two main ones are what I'm aware of, but you can go ahead and research, is one, the umbilical hernia, and an incisional hernia. So the umbilical hernia is where, well, how you know, first of all, is that there is your navel is protruding or sticks out. So a hernia is when your intestine is protruding, like a little hole or a little area or a little cut in your abdominal wall. So it's like your hernia, this is your abdominal wall, and your intestine just kind of come through, right? It comes through the area, the abdominal wall area. It can happen while you're pregnant. So if there's like too much pressure that your body experiences from the baby, it can happen. It can happen when you're pushing. It can happen, you know, just like research it, guys, but it's definitely possible for like a number of things. And umbilical hernia is when the intestine now is, as I mentioned, comes through the abdominal wall, and it shows around your navel area. So it's really near your navel area. That's how you know you have an umbilical hernia. Now, an incisional hernia is a protrusion that forms at the like around the area of like the scar, or around the area that they, you know, put the stitches on. So how you know sometimes that you have an incisional hernia right there is that you may have a bulge, and you may be constipated, and you may have some pains like around that area. So if you do have any of these issues, definitely talk to your doctor. So this can happen when the, you know, your OBGYN or whoever is doing the surgery, I don't know, stick the knife too far down. That can also happen as well. So I did a lot of research on this to find out. So they have to be careful in terms of how they cut you, so they don't want to just not cut you, but just like, because you know there's a lot of like sharp utensils being used, so it can happen like at any time. So maybe when them cut you, or maybe when they're inside doing whatever, anything, you know, can happen. So you want to be sure, you want to, or definitely ask your OBGYN for, you know, information on that. I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice. Please do not take it as such. This is just my experience about the things that I wish I knew after and before I had a C-section, but I had to, you know, obviously learn these things as I go along. And the final one, guys, which is number 7, things that I really wish I knew and I don't hear many people talking about it, is that you lose a certain level of sensitivity altogether, or just a little bit in that area. For me right now, it's still, sometimes I feel like I'm not feeling anything. Like when I would poke the area that they cut, I sometimes would not feel anything until like I press it like really hard. Even so, sometimes I still don't feel it. So you lose a certain level of sensitivity and feeling in that area, and it will take some time to build back, because remember that they cut the nerve to go like deep into the skin and to remove something. So, you know, that's also a thing that I was super concerned about, because if you know me as well, I'm a very spiritual person, or at least I try to be a very spiritual person, and I always want to feel like my body is, you know, in full functioning. So not being able to feel down that area is sometimes, you know, hard for me to accept. But over the years, I do hope I can, you know, go back to some certain level of normalcy. I don't know about the sexual intercourse part of it, because I've been celibate for over a year now, so I don't know how that part work, right? But I know that generally there's some loss of some sensitivity, and feeling. That's my dog. So definitely talk with your OBGYN about that part. I think that's it. So 7 reasons. Oh, here is a bonus one. It is the completely last resort. Like, it's the last resort, right? No, because, well, for me, I believe it's the last resort because it's a surgery, right? Almost a lot of the times, women can bring forth their child vaginally. A lot of, I think it's so crazy because we say vaginally now, because saying natural birth is an offense to a lot of persons, right? It's triggering for me, but it's not offensive per se. So, you know, natural birth. So, but we say vaginal birth anyway. But yeah, a lot of us can, you know, bring forth a child vaginally because that's what our bodies were made to do. Like, we were made to do that. Our bodies can adjust and adapt to any situation, especially when it comes to childbirth, because that is one of the main reasons. Like, our bodies were made that way, right? Now, there are a lot of things these days that prevent us from having that type of experience when it comes to birth and labor, because of, you know, maybe some persons are obese, maybe there's gestational diabetes, maybe, you know, high risks in other ways or something. So those things may cause, maybe the best way to bring forth the child is to, you know, have a C-section. But even so, like, I've seen and watched and heard about a lot of stories about women who, you know, bring forth their child vaginally. But a C-section should be the last thing, because it can be complicated for, you know, future births, for future pregnancies, which, you know, we don't want. So I've researched that a baby who is born via C-section can develop breathing problems or breathing issues that may not last, you know, I guess a lifetime, but it's also possible. And one of the reasons as well, so it should be the last resort, is because the doctors and the nurses must have tried every single thing first before resorting to a C-section. So for example, a lot of persons these days, I realize, that are being induced, and chances are, if you are being induced, majority of the time it ends up in a C-section. So, and it's major pain. So, and the thing is, you know, a lot of these doctors know about all of these things. So that's why I'm always encouraging you guys to do the research. Trust me, do the research. You won't regret it. It's not a matter of trying to raise fear or anxiety. It's a matter of, one, knowing how to be assertive in defending your rights and what you want, knowing your body, you know, adapting to whatever you think is the best thing that is for you and your baby. So, you know, a lot of induction end up in C-section because, you know, it's like an induction pretty much sends the body into like a shock, right? And you experience major pain that's gonna leave you, the mommy, in distress, which in turn makes the baby in distress, which obviously the last resort thing is, you know, a C-section, because you don't want to have a distressed baby coming out. When the baby is distressed, you know, maybe the baby poos inside the womb, and, you know, if the baby swallow that or eat that, is just like major issues after that. So definitely the last resort thing. And as well too, as I mentioned earlier in my video, a lot of these private or even public hospitals do C-sections because of convenience and because of money. You know, obviously, okay guys, let me tell you something. To deliver a baby naturally, give or take, is around 200 Jamaican dollars. To do a C-section is around almost $500,000 Jamaican dollars. So that's a $300,000 difference in cost. So it must be something, it must be a business thing, like it must be a whole business thing, right? Because come on. So I mean, you have to do your research, you have to be aware, and all the first time mommies out there, definitely do your research. You know your body best. I feel like I'm just ranting and I'm repeating, so yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, if you think I left off anything. So I really and truly hope this video helped you, because trust me, like, yeah, I wish I knew like these things before. I'm just really sharing my experiences, and this is also a healing thing for me, because you know, to have these things in my mind and in my head, I love to share. Even though writing is my original love, but doing a video is, you know, another learning task for me. So that's something as well I'm trying to do, which is a part of my whole healing process. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and yeah guys, let's start a conversation. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and see you in my next video.